Katie and Dave had always been the quintessential college sweethearts. Their romance blossomed amidst the pressures of academic life, leading to a whirlwind wedding shortly after graduation. Settling into their cozy suburban home, they were the epitome of a happy couple ready to embark on life's journey together. Katie, with her warm smile and infectious laughter, brought a sense of joy and spontaneity to their marriage. She decided to take a break from her promising career to focus on raising their two young children, believing that these formative years were crucial for their development. Dave, a hard-working and dedicated professional, supported Katie's decision wholeheartedly, even though it meant shouldering the financial responsibilities alone. Their home was filled with the usual chaos of young kids: messy rooms, impromptu dance parties, and bedtime stories. They spent weekends at the park, building sandcastles and flying kites, cherishing every moment of their children's early years. Dave would often come home to the delightful scent of Katie's home-cooked meals, the table set with care, and the sound of giggles filling the air. However, as time passed, the initial bliss began to wane. Katie's mischievous sense of humor, once endearing, started to wear thin on Dave, especially when coupled with the antics of their neighbor, Jake. Jake, a jovial prankster, found a willing accomplice in Katie, and their playful exchanges often crossed the boundaries of good taste. Innocent pranks, like switching the sugar with salt or filling Dave's office with balloons, began to create friction. What was meant to be light-hearted fun often left Dave feeling undermined and unappreciated. The strain of balancing work, parenting, and maintaining their home, combined with the incessant pranks, began to take a toll on their relationship. Dave's patience wore thin as he navigated the delicate balance between work stress and home life, while Katie, feeling unacknowledged, sought solace in her laughter-filled exchanges with Jake. The pranks escalated in complexity and frequency, turning their once harmonious home into a battleground of humor and frustration. Dave would return home from a long day at work, only to find his favorite chair wrapped in cling film, or his briefcase filled with rubber spiders. Each prank, though seemingly harmless, chipped away at his composure, leaving him feeling increasingly alienated in his own home. Katie, on the other hand, found Jake's pranks a welcome distraction from the monotony of her daily routine. She enjoyed the camaraderie and the shared laughter, unaware of the growing rift it was causing in her marriage. Her attempts to involve Dave in the fun often backfired, leading to arguments and hurt feelings. The once solid foundation of their marriage started showing signs of cracks, with each practical joke driving a deeper wedge between them. Dave's frustration boiled over one evening when he came home to find his car covered in sticky notes, a prank that took hours to clean up. He confronted Katie, his voice tinged with exhaustion and anger, but she laughed it off, further widening the gap between them. Their conversations, once filled with dreams and future plans, now revolved around mundane tasks and unresolved grievances. Nights that were once spent cuddled on the couch, watching movies and sharing popcorn, turned into silent dinners and early bedtimes. The joy that had defined their relationship seemed to fade, replaced by an undercurrent of tension and unspoken resentment. As they navigated these choppy waters, the couple was forced to confront the underlying issues that threatened to unravel their once idyllic life together. The love and connection that had once been their anchor now felt like a distant memory, overshadowed by misunderstandings and unmet expectations. The playful spark that Katie brought to their marriage became a source of contention, pushing them further apart instead of bringing them closer together. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, the growing discomfort in Dave's heart became more palpable. Katie's interactions with their neighbor Jake, which had once seemed innocent and playful, now appeared to be tinged with an unsettling familiarity. Jake was around more often, stopping by for casual chats that stretched longer than they should, sharing inside jokes that left Dave feeling excluded. He began to notice the subtle changes in Katie's behavior. Her laughter seemed a bit too bright when Jake was around, her smiles a bit too frequent. Small details that once seemed trivial now gnawed at Dave's peace of mind. Katie, who had always been open and transparent, started to become elusive about her time spent with Jake, brushing off Dave's inquiries with a casual wave of her hand. The growing discomfort turned into suspicion as Dave observed more frequent and seemingly intimate interactions between Katie and Jake. They would spend hours in the backyard, their heads bent close together in hushed conversation, or take impromptu trips to the grocery store, claiming it was just for a quick errand. Dave's unease was further fueled by the gossip of other neighbors, who would occasionally drop hints about how much time Katie and Jake spent together. The trust that had once been the cornerstone of their marriage was now eroded by doubt and insecurity. Dave found himself checking Katie's phone when she wasn't looking, searching for any evidence that might confirm his fears. Each time he found nothing, the relief was fleeting, overshadowed by the persistent nagging doubts that refused to be silenced. The incident that shattered the fragile veneer of their marriage came one fateful evening. Dave had returned home earlier than usual, hoping to surprise Katie with a quiet dinner and some much-needed quality time together. As he walked up the driveway, he heard laughter emanating from the backyard. Quietly he approached, and what he saw stopped him in his tracks. Katie and Jake were sitting far too close on the patio, sharing a bottle of wine, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of the setting sun. Jake reached over to brush a strand of hair from Katie's face, a gesture so intimate and tender that it felt like a punch to Dave's gut. His heart raced as he watched Katie lean into the touch, her eyes closed in what looked like contentment. Unable to contain his anger and hurt, Dave stormed into the backyard, his voice trembling with emotion. "What's going on here?" he demanded, his eyes darting between Katie and Jake. The startled look on Katie's face quickly turned to one of defensiveness, while Jake merely smirked, adding fuel to Dave's simmering rage. Katie tried to explain it away as just a friendly moment, but the damage was done. The image of them together, so intimately connected, was seared into Dave's mind. That night, the tension in their home was palpable, a heavy silence punctuated by terse exchanges and muffled sobs. The rift in their marriage widened as the days passed. Dave's suspicions deepened, and Katie's attempts to reassure him only seemed to widen the gap. They began to sleep in separate rooms, their conversations reduced to the bare minimum necessary to manage household chores and the care of their children. Dave found himself replaying the incident over and over in his mind, each time adding new layers of doubt and betrayal. He would spend hours at work, avoiding coming home to an atmosphere thick with unspoken accusations and resentment. Katie, feeling misunderstood and unjustly accused, withdrew further into herself, finding solace in the one person who seemed to understand her, Jake. Their once vibrant and loving home now felt like a battlefield, with each day bringing new skirmishes and deeper wounds. The love that had once bound them together now seemed like a distant memory, overshadowed by mistrust and heartache. The playful pranks that had once caused minor friction were now replaced by a serious breach of trust, with Katie and Jake's behavior casting a long shadow over their marriage. The foundation of their relationship, already weakened by previous tensions, began to crumble under the weight of suspicion and betrayal, leaving both Katie and Dave struggling to find a way back to the love they once knew. The growing tension between Katie and Dave reached its breaking point on a stormy evening that seemed to mirror the turmoil in their hearts. Dave had been on edge for weeks, his mind plagued by the image of Katie and Jake in the backyard. The air between him and Katie crackled with unresolved tension, each conversation a minefield of suspicion and defensiveness. That night, as the rain poured down and thunder rumbled in the distance, Dave decided he couldn't take it anymore. He had to know the truth, no matter how painful it might be. In a moment of desperation, he set up a hidden camera in the living room, hoping to capture any interactions that might confirm his worst fears. It was an act born out of a deep sense of betrayal, a last resort to uncover the truth that had eluded him. Days turned into nights as he meticulously reviewed the footage, his heart sinking with each passing hour. Then, one evening, as he fast-forwarded through the day's recordings, something caught his eye. There, on the screen, was Katie and Jake, once again sitting far too close, their conversation muted but their body language unmistakable. Dave's heart pounded as he watched Jake lean in and whisper something in Katie's ear, making her laugh and blush. The intimacy between them was undeniable, but it was what happened next that shattered Dave's world. Jake placed his hand on Katie's knee, and instead of pulling away, she covered it with her own, a look of conflicted emotions crossing her face. It was the confirmation Dave had been dreading. He paused the footage, his hands trembling, and took a deep breath, trying to steady himself for the confrontation that was about to unfold. He waited until Katie returned home, her cheerful greeting met with a cold silence. "We need to talk," Dave said, his voice strained and barely controlled. Katie's smile faded as she sensed the gravity of the situation. They sat in the living room, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Dave pulled out his laptop, his eyes never leaving Katie's face as he played the incriminating footage. Katie's expression went from confusion to shock to a desperate attempt to explain. "Dave, it's not what it looks like," she pleaded, her voice breaking. But the evidence was irrefutable. The betrayal was laid bare, and there was no way to take it back. "How long, Katie?" Dave's voice was a mixture of anger and sorrow. "How long have you been lying to me?" Katie's eyes filled with tears, and she tried to reach out to him, but he recoiled. The hurt too deep, the trust too shattered. "It was never an affair," she insisted. "Jake is just a friend, but I see how it looks. I know I should have been more careful, more respectful of our relationship. I'm so sorry, Dave." The confrontation left both of them emotionally exhausted, the air heavy with the unspoken realization that their marriage might be beyond repair. That night, Dave couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned, replaying the events in his mind, grappling with the enormity of Katie's betrayal. The next morning, he made a decision that would alter the course of their lives. He called Katie into the kitchen, where they had shared so many happy moments, and told her about the hidden camera. "I needed to know the truth, Katie," he said, his voice steady but filled with pain. "And now that I do, we have to face it." Katie's face crumpled, and she nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I understand," she whispered. "I never wanted to hurt you, Dave. I just got lost, caught up in the excitement and the attention." Dave looked at her, the woman he had loved for so long, and felt a deep sense of loss. "I can't do this anymore," he said finally. "I need time to think, to figure out what comes next." The decision was made. Dave moved out that day, leaving Katie to face the empty house and the consequences of her actions. The revelation of the hidden camera footage had laid everything bare, forcing them both to confront the painful reality of their broken relationship. The trust that had been the bedrock of their marriage was gone, replaced by a chasm of betrayal and heartache. As Dave drove away, he felt a mixture of relief and despair, knowing that the road ahead would be long and difficult, but necessary for both of them to heal. Katie, left alone in the house, was overwhelmed with guilt and regret. She spent hours staring at the footage, trying to understand how things had gone so wrong. The decisions they both made in the wake of the revelation would shape their futures, leaving an indelible mark on their hearts and their lives. The journey towards closure and self-discovery had begun, but it would be a path fraught with pain, reflection, and ultimately, the hope for a new beginning. The aftermath of the revelation was a period of intense emotional turmoil for both Katie and Dave. The pain of betrayal and the collapse of trust cast a long shadow over their lives, affecting not only their relationship, but also the dynamics within their entire family. Dave found himself grappling with a whirlwind of emotions: anger, sorrow, confusion, and a profound sense of loss. He moved in with his parents temporarily, seeking solace in the familiarity of his childhood home. His parents, shocked and heartbroken by the news, offered unwavering support. They listened patiently as Dave poured out his feelings, their home a safe haven amidst the storm. Their quiet reassurances and the comfort of shared meals provided a semblance of stability in a world turned upside down. Katie, on the other hand, was left to navigate the empty house, now a constant reminder of her mistakes. She reached out to her family, desperate for support and understanding. Her parents, though deeply disappointed, stood by her side, urging her to take responsibility for her actions and find a way to make amends. Katie's sister, a steadfast presence, offered a shoulder to cry on and helped with the children, providing a brief respite from the overwhelming guilt and regret. The children, too young to fully grasp the gravity of the situation, sensed the tension and unease in the air. Katie struggled to maintain a sense of normalcy for their sake, but the strain was evident. Bedtime stories were interrupted by tears, and family dinners were marred by an underlying tension that Katie could not dispel. The emotional toll was immense, and both Katie and Dave realized that they needed to confront the situation head-on to find any semblance of resolution. In a bid to address the lingering doubts and suspicions, Dave suggested taking a lie detector test. It was a drastic measure, but he felt it was the only way to move forward. Katie, eager to prove her sincerity and regain some measure of trust, agreed. The day of the test was fraught with anxiety. They met at a neutral location, a sterile office that felt far removed from the warmth of their home. The test administrator explained the process, and soon Katie was hooked up to the machine, her heart pounding in her chest. As the questions began, the room was silent save for the ticking of the machine and Katie's measured breaths. The questions ranged from the specifics of her relationship with Jake to broader queries about her feelings and intentions. Katie answered truthfully, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her insides. When the test concluded, the administrator reviewed the results, his expression giving nothing away. The wait was excruciating, each second stretching into an eternity. Finally, the administrator looked up and delivered the results. Katie had been truthful. The relief was palpable, but it was tempered by the realization that the test, while clearing some doubts, could not heal the wounds inflicted by her actions. The lie detector test provided a momentary reprieve, a glimmer of hope that they could find a way forward. However, the consequences of Katie's betrayal were far-reaching. The road to rebuilding trust would be long and arduous, requiring patience, honesty, and a willingness to confront their deepest fears and insecurities. They began attending couples therapy, a neutral ground where they could express their feelings and work through their issues with the guidance of a professional. The sessions were emotionally draining but also cathartic, allowing them to voice their pain and begin the slow process of healing. The support of their families played a crucial role during this time. Dave's parents encouraged him to focus on self-care and personal growth, urging him to pursue his interests and reconnect with old friends. Katie's family helped her navigate the complexities of co-parenting, offering practical advice and emotional support. Their children, sensing the gradual improvement in the atmosphere, began to relax, their laughter slowly returning to the household. Katie and Dave's journey towards resolution was marked by small victories and setbacks. There were days when the weight of their past threatened to overwhelm them, but there were also moments of genuine connection and understanding. The process of addressing the betrayal and its consequences was painful, but it was also transformative. They learned to communicate more openly, to listen without judgment, and to appreciate the strength it took to confront their issues head-on. Ultimately, the lie detector test was not a magic fix, but a step towards rebuilding the shattered foundation of their marriage. The journey was far from over, but with the support of their families and a renewed commitment to each other, Katie and Dave began to believe that they could find their way back to a place of trust and love. The emotional turmoil had forged a deeper resilience within them, and as they faced the future together, they did so with a newfound understanding of the importance of honesty, empathy, and unwavering support. As Katie and Dave navigated the rocky path toward healing, another storm was brewing that would further complicate their lives. Sarah, Jake's girlfriend, had been noticing the strange behavior between Jake and Katie. She had tried to ignore it at first, brushing off her suspicions as mere jealousy. But as the incidents grew more frequent and her unease intensified, she couldn't remain silent any longer. One evening, Sarah decided it was time to confront Jake, demanding the truth about his interactions with Katie. The confrontation took place in Jake's apartment, a place that had once been their sanctuary but now felt charged with tension and mistrust. Sarah stood in the living room, her arms crossed, her eyes blazing with determination. Jake, sensing the seriousness of the situation, attempted to diffuse her anger with his usual charm. "Sarah, you're overreacting," he said, his tone casual. "Katie and I are just friends. You know that." But Sarah was not swayed. "Just friends?" she retorted, her voice shaking with emotion. "Then why have I seen the way you look at her? Why have I heard the whispers, the laughter? Why does she seem to be around all the time?" Jake's smile faded, replaced by a look of frustration. "You're being paranoid," he snapped. "You're making something out of nothing." The argument escalated, voices rising and tempers flaring. Sarah, fueled by her need for answers, pressed on. "I know there's something you're not telling me, Jake. And I won't stop until I find out what it is." Jake, cornered and defensive, finally let his facade slip. "Fine," he yelled. "Yes, I enjoy spending time with Katie. She's fun and easy to talk to, but that doesn't mean I'm having an affair." The tension in the room was palpable, the air thick with unspoken words and raw emotion. Sarah took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. "Jake, I love you," she said, her voice softer but no less determined. "But I can't stay in a relationship built on lies. I need the truth. All of it." Jake looked at her, his expression conflicted. For a moment it seemed as if he might come clean. But then he shook his head, turning away. Determined not to let the matter rest, Sarah decided to dig deeper. She remembered seeing Jake working on something on his computer, always quickly closing the screen whenever she approached. That night, after Jake had fallen asleep, she accessed his computer and discovered a folder labeled Private. Inside, she found a series of videos of Jake and Katie, some innocent, some less so. But what caught her attention was a single file, heavily edited and manipulated. Sarah's heart raced as she watched the fabricated video, her mind piecing together the deceit. It was a montage of moments taken out of context, designed to make it look as though Katie was the instigator in their interactions, leading Jake on. The realization hit her like a punch to the gut. Jake had been manipulating the narrative, twisting the truth to suit his own purposes. The next day, Sarah confronted Jake with the evidence. "I found the videos, Jake," she said, her voice cold and steady. "I know what you've been doing. You've been lying to me, to Katie, to everyone." Jake's face paled as he realized his deceit had been exposed. "Sarah, it's not what you think," he stammered, but she cut him off. "No, Jake, it's exactly what I think. You've been manipulating us, creating this web of lies. How could you?" The confrontation was explosive. Sarah's accusations tore through the veneer of Jake's charm, exposing the depths of his deceit. She dissected the video frame by frame, pointing out the edits and manipulations. "You wanted to make it look like Katie was after you, to make her the villain," she said, her voice shaking with fury. "But you were the one pulling the strings all along." Jake tried to defend himself, but his arguments fell flat. The truth was undeniable, laid bare by Sarah's meticulous dissection of the video. The chaos and anger that followed were overwhelming. Jake's deception had not only betrayed Sarah, but it also deeply hurt Katie and Dave, adding another layer of complexity to an already fraught situation. Sarah's revelations caused an uproar. Dave, upon learning about the fabricated video, felt a renewed sense of betrayal, not only from Katie's perceived infidelity, but from Jake's deliberate manipulation. The anger and hurt that followed were almost unbearable. Dave confronted Jake, his voice shaking with rage. "How could you do this to us? To Katie, to me? We trusted you." Katie, devastated by the extent of Jake's deceit, confronted him as well. "I thought we were friends," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "How could you twist everything like this? How could you use me to hurt Dave?" Jake, now facing the full consequences of his actions, could only hang his head in shame. His lies had unraveled, leaving nothing but chaos and broken trust in their wake. The exposure of Jake's lies and manipulations had far-reaching consequences. The relationships that had once seemed unbreakable were now teetering on the edge of collapse. The path to healing and resolution had become even more complicated, with new layers of betrayal to confront and overcome. For Katie and Dave, the journey ahead was uncertain, fraught with challenges, but also with the potential for newfound honesty and understanding. As they navigated this new reality, they would need to rely on their strength, their love for each other, and the support of those around them to rebuild their lives and their trust. The revelation of Jake's deceitful video sent shockwaves through the fragile peace that Katie and Dave had been trying to rebuild. When Sarah first discovered the heavily edited video, she knew its implications would be devastating, but she also recognized the importance of bringing the truth to light. Armed with the evidence, she arranged a meeting with Katie and Dave, hoping to confront Jake's manipulation head-on and lay bare the full extent of his deceit. Katie and Dave sat in their living room, the tension palpable as they awaited Sarah's arrival. The atmosphere was heavy with anticipation and unease. When Sarah walked in, she carried with her an air of determination mixed with sadness. She sat down, placing her laptop on the coffee table. "You both need to see this," she said, her voice steady but tinged with sorrow. She opened the incriminating video and pressed play. As the edited footage rolled, Katie and Dave watched in stunned silence. The video portrayed a twisted version of reality, depicting Katie as the aggressor in her interactions with Jake, while conveniently omitting any of Jake's own flirtatious behavior. It was a carefully constructed narrative designed to mislead and manipulate. Katie's face paled as she saw herself being framed in such a malicious light, while Dave's expression hardened. A mixture of anger and betrayal etched across his features. When the video ended, Sarah looked at them, her eyes filled with empathy. "Jake created this," she said softly. "He wanted to make it look like Katie was pursuing him, to cover up his own actions, and to drive a wedge between you two." The weight of Sarah's words hung in the air, the truth finally exposed. Katie's eyes welled up with tears as she turned to Dave. "I swear I never did any of those things," she pleaded. "You have to believe me." Dave, still reeling from the shock, took a deep breath, trying to process everything. "I believe you, Katie," he said quietly. "But this changes everything." The betrayal they had both endured was compounded by the realization that they had been pawns in Jake's cruel game. The hurt and anger they felt towards Jake now extended to the damage his actions had inflicted on their marriage. The confrontation with Jake that followed was inevitable. Katie, Dave, and Sarah met him at a neutral location, a coffee shop far from the emotional battlegrounds of their homes. Jake arrived, visibly nervous, sensing that the jig was up. As they sat down, Dave wasted no time. "Jake, we know about the video," he said, his voice cold and firm. "Sarah found it. We know how you edited it to make Katie look bad." Jake's face drained of color. He opened his mouth to protest, but Katie cut him off. "How could you do this to us?" she demanded, her voice shaking with emotion. "You were supposed to be our friend. How could you manipulate everything and hurt us like this?" Jake's eyes darted around, looking for an escape, but there was none. I was jealous," he admitted finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "I wanted what you two had, and I thought if I could make Dave doubt you, Katie, maybe I could have a chance." The admission hung in the air, a twisted confession that only deepened the wounds. Dave's anger boiled over. "You destroyed our trust, Jake," he said, his voice trembling with rage. "You used our insecurities against us, all because you were jealous? That's unforgivable." Sarah, who had stood by silently, now spoke up. "Jake, you need to understand the gravity of what you've done. You've hurt everyone here, and there are no easy fixes for that." The conversation ended with Jake's feeble attempts at apologies, but the damage was done. Katie and Dave walked away, their hearts heavy with the weight of Jake's betrayal. The truth had surfaced, but it brought with it the realization that their marriage, already strained, might not survive this final blow. Back at home, Katie and Dave sat in silence, the enormity of their situation settling over them. "Where do we go from here?" Katie asked, her voice barely a whisper. Dave looked at her, his eyes filled with pain and uncertainty. "I don't know," he admitted. "But we need to figure out what we really want. Whether we can rebuild from this, or if it's time to let go." The days that followed were filled with soul-searching and difficult conversations. They both sought the support of their families, who offered comfort and counsel. Katie's parents, while saddened by the turn of events, encouraged her to take things one step at a time. Dave's parents, too, offered a listening ear and reminded him of his strength and resilience. Ultimately, the truth about the deceitful video forced Katie and Dave to confront the deeper issues in their marriage. They realized that their journey towards healing required more than just uncovering the lies. It required a profound reassessment of their relationship and their commitment to each other. After much contemplation and heartache, they decided to take a break from each other, giving themselves the space and time needed to heal individually. The breakup was painful but necessary. It allowed Katie and Dave to step back and evaluate their lives, their priorities, and their future. They continued to attend therapy, both individually and together, working through their emotions and learning to forgive, not just each other, but also themselves. As they navigated this new chapter, they remained hopeful that, whether together or apart, they would emerge stronger and more resilient, with a clearer understanding of what they truly needed to find happiness and peace. In the wake of the revelation about Jake's deceit, the aftermath of the betrayal left Katie and Dave grappling with heartbreak and shattered trust. The weight of the deceit was overwhelming, and the impact was felt deeply in every aspect of their lives. The initial shock of discovering the manipulated video had given way to a more profound and painful realization. Their trust in each other and their faith in their relationship had been severely compromised. Katie and Dave's home, once a sanctuary of shared dreams and hopes, now felt like a battleground of emotions. The very foundation of their relationship had been rocked, leaving them to navigate the tumultuous waters of their new reality. The hurt was raw and pervasive, seeping into their daily lives and interactions. Their conversations, once filled with warmth and affection, were now fraught with tension and suspicion. Each glance, each word, seemed to carry the weight of their shattered trust. Katie found herself sinking into a deep well of remorse and self-doubt. She replayed every interaction, every moment with Jake, trying to understand where things had gone wrong. Her heart ached with the realization that her actions, though innocent in her own mind, had been manipulated into something more sinister. She felt a profound sense of guilt, not only for her role in the situation, but also for the pain she had caused Dave. The betrayal had cut deeply, leaving her to confront the reality of her choices and their consequences. Dave, too, was struggling to come to terms with the betrayal. The trust he had placed in Jake, and by extension in Katie, had been brutally undermined. He wrestled with feelings of anger, hurt, and confusion. The image of Katie and Jake together, manipulated and twisted to appear as though Katie was the aggressor, haunted him. The knowledge that someone he had considered a friend could orchestrate such a deceitful scheme was a blow he could hardly bear. As the days passed, both Katie and Dave began to uncover the full extent of Jake's deception. The more they dug into the details, the clearer it became that Jake's manipulation had been more extensive than they initially realized. The fabricated video was just the tip of the iceberg. They discovered that Jake had been meticulously orchestrating a narrative that painted Katie as the villain, while concealing his own inappropriate behavior. The depth of Jake's deception was grim and unsettling. It wasn't just about a single act of betrayal, but about a sustained campaign of manipulation designed to create discord and mistrust. The realization that their entire world had been turned upside down by someone they had trusted was a heavy burden to bear. Katie and Dave found themselves grappling with a profound sense of betrayal, not just from Jake, but from the entire situation that had been crafted to undermine their relationship. In the midst of this emotional turmoil, Katie and Dave sought solace in their families and friends. The support they received was a lifeline, offering them a semblance of normalcy and a space to process their feelings. Katie's parents, though heartbroken for their daughter, stood by her, providing emotional support and practical advice. Dave's family, similarly, offered a refuge from the storm, encouraging him to focus on his well-being and to navigate the situation with patience. The process of discovering the full extent of Jake's deception was painful, but necessary. It forced Katie and Dave to confront not only the betrayal itself, but also the underlying issues in their relationship. They were compelled to examine the cracks in their trust and the vulnerabilities that had been exposed. This period of reflection and analysis was marked by a deep and often painful exploration of their emotions, their relationship dynamics, and their personal values. In the end, the uncovering of Jake's deceit served as a catalyst for both Katie and Dave to reevaluate their lives and their relationship. It became clear that healing from such a profound betrayal would require more than just confronting the deceit. It would necessitate a thorough and honest reassessment of their feelings, their expectations, and their future together. The road ahead was uncertain, filled with the challenge of rebuilding trust and finding a way forward from the wreckage of their once stable relationship. The aftermath of Jake's deception was not just about uncovering individual lies, but about understanding the elaborate scheme that had been meticulously crafted to unravel Katie and Dave's relationship. Analyzing this scheme revealed the extent of Jake's manipulation and its profound impact on trust and emotions. Jake's deceit was a masterful exercise in manipulation, aimed at dismantling the foundation of Katie and Dave's relationship. The scheme was intricate and multifaceted, designed to exploit vulnerabilities and sow discord. It started with the fabricated video, a tool crafted to make Katie appear to be pursuing Jake, an insinuation that she was the aggressor in their interactions. But this was just the surface layer of a more complex deception. At its core, Jake's plan was to create a narrative that would drive a wedge between Katie and Dave. He understood that by manipulating perceptions and exploiting existing insecurities, he could create an environment ripe for distrust and conflict. The video was carefully edited to remove any context that would suggest Jake's own involvement in their interactions, instead portraying him as the innocent party caught in a web of Katie's advances. The scheme extended beyond the video itself. Jake had orchestrated a series of seemingly innocuous encounters designed to fuel suspicion. He had cultivated relationships with individuals who could corroborate his manipulated narrative if questioned, ensuring that his deceit had multiple layers of plausibility. These relationships and the way he framed his interactions with Katie and Dave were all part of a calculated effort to maintain control over the situation. The impact on relationships was profound. For Katie and Dave, discovering the full extent of the manipulation was a devastating blow. Their trust in Jake, once seen as a friend, was shattered, and the emotional fallout extended deeply into their relationship. The betrayal had left them questioning not just their trust in Jake, but in each other as well. The manipulation had created rifts that were difficult to mend, casting long shadows over their interactions and feelings. The emotional impact of Jake's scheme was equally significant. Katie and Dave were forced to confront feelings of anger, sadness, and confusion. Katie, grappling with guilt and self-doubt, struggled to come to terms with her role in the situation and the extent to which Jake's lies had distorted her actions. Dave faced a profound sense of betrayal and loss, grappling with the realization that his trust had been weaponized against him. As Katie and Dave worked through the fallout, they began to unravel the intricate web of lies and deceit. The process of unveiling the manipulation was both painful and enlightening. They reviewed the fabricated video multiple times, dissecting each scene and analyzing how it had been edited to fit Jake's narrative. They also revisited conversations and interactions that had seemed suspicious in retrospect, piecing together how Jake had used them to further his deceitful scheme. Further revelations came to light as Katie and Dave investigated Jake's other actions and relationships. They discovered that Jake had been carefully building a facade of innocence while actively working to undermine their trust. He had engaged in conversations with mutual friends, subtly planting seeds of doubt and reinforcing the narrative he had created. This was not a spontaneous act of deceit, but a premeditated effort to manipulate perceptions and control outcomes. Unraveling the manipulation revealed just how deep Jake's deceit had run. It became clear that his actions were driven by more than just jealousy. They were a calculated effort to control and disrupt Katie and Dave's lives. The revelations underscored the complexity of the situation and highlighted the lengths to which someone could go to manipulate emotions and relationships. For Katie and Dave, understanding the full scope of Jake's scheme was a crucial step in processing their emotions and moving forward. It allowed them to see the betrayal not as a reflection of their own failures, but as the result of someone else's malicious intent. This realization was both a relief and a source of additional pain, as it underscored the extent of the manipulation they had been subjected to. As they worked through their emotions and the implications of Jake's deceit, Katie and Dave focused on rebuilding their relationship with a renewed commitment to honesty and transparency. They sought therapy to address the deep-seated trust issues and emotional scars left by the betrayal. Their journey towards healing was marked by a rigorous examination of their feelings, their relationship dynamics, and their personal values. Through this process, they aimed to emerge stronger and more resilient, with a clearer understanding of what it took to rebuild trust and find a path forward. Decoding the manipulated videos was a critical step in uncovering the full extent of Jake's deception. The videos, initially perceived as damning evidence against Katie, had been carefully crafted to manipulate perceptions and sow discord. The process of decoding them required a meticulous analysis of the footage, identifying discrepancies, and understanding the underlying intentions behind each edit. Katie and Dave, armed with Sarah's support and their own determination, began by examining the video with a critical eye. They worked with a forensic video analyst who specialized in detecting digital manipulations. The expert used advanced software to scrutinize the video's metadata, frame-by-frame analysis, and forensic audio examination. Through this technical examination, they were able to identify alterations and deletions that had been made to the original footage. The forensic analysis revealed several key distortions. Selective editing. Key moments had been cut or altered to misrepresent the context. Scenes where Jake's behavior was flirtatious or inappropriate were removed or obscured, creating a misleading narrative that painted Katie in a negative light. Audio manipulation. The audio track of the video had been modified to remove critical comments and interactions that would have shown Jake's involvement in the situation. This selective removal distorted the true nature of the conversations between Katie and Jake. Timing discrepancies. The timestamps on the video were manipulated to suggest that events occurred in a different sequence than they actually did. This was done to create a false timeline of interactions, further skewing the perception of Katie's actions. By decoding these manipulations, Katie and Dave were able to reconstruct a more accurate version of the events. This reconstruction was crucial for understanding how Jake had distorted the truth, and for confronting him with irrefutable evidence of his deceit. As they delved deeper, Katie and Dave realized that the manipulated videos were part of a broader scheme of deceit. They decided to investigate further to uncover additional evidence that might reveal the full extent of Jake's manipulation. Their investigation involved several key steps: reviewing communication records. Katie and Dave examined their communication records with Jake, including texts, emails, and phone logs. They looked for inconsistencies or suspicious behavior that might indicate further manipulation or collusion with others. Interviewing mutual contacts. They spoke with mutual friends and acquaintances who had been in contact with Jake around the time the deception took place. These interviews helped uncover how Jake had been spreading his manipulated narrative and reinforcing his fabricated story. Gathering additional footage. They sought out additional footage or evidence from other sources that could provide context or contradict Jake's claims. This included security camera footage from their neighborhood and any other relevant recordings that might shed light on the situation. Consulting with experts. Beyond video forensics, Katie and Dave consulted with psychologists and relationship experts to understand the psychological impact of Jake's manipulation. and to get advice on how to navigate the emotional aftermath. The further investigation revealed the depth of Jake's deceit. He had not only manipulated the video footage, but had also engaged in a systematic effort to undermine Katie and Dave's trust in each other. The fabricated video was just one piece of a larger puzzle of lies and manipulation. As the full scope of Jake's actions became clear, Katie and Dave were faced with the stark reality of the betrayal they had endured. The intricate web of deceit had been designed to exploit their vulnerabilities and create lasting damage. The realization of how thoroughly Jake had manipulated their perceptions and emotions was both a revelation and a heavy burden. In confronting Jake with the additional evidence, Katie and Dave were able to expose the full extent of his scheme. They presented the detailed findings of their investigation, including the forensic analysis of the videos and the testimonies from mutual contacts. The confrontation was intense and emotional, as Jake was forced to confront the breadth of his deceit and the pain it had caused. For Katie and Dave, the process of decoding the videos and investigating further evidence was a crucial part of their journey towards understanding the betrayal and beginning the healing process. It allowed them to see through the lies and manipulations, providing a clearer perspective on their situation and helping them to navigate the path forward with greater clarity and resilience. Reflecting on the depth of the betrayal that had shaken their lives, Katie and Dave found themselves grappling with an overwhelming sense of heartbreak and loss. The realization that their marriage had been undermined by a carefully orchestrated scheme of deceit was a painful and sobering experience. As they sifted through the wreckage of their once stable relationship, they were forced to confront the profound impact of the betrayal on their emotional well-being and their shared future. The betrayal had not been a single, isolated incident, but rather an elaborate scheme that had eroded the very foundation of their trust. Each new revelation about Jake's manipulation felt like another wound being opened. The video footage, initially seen as the centerpiece of the deceit, was only the beginning. The more Katie and Dave uncovered, the clearer it became that the betrayal was deeper and more insidious than they had initially understood. Katie, in particular, was overwhelmed by the emotional toll of the situation. She had always seen herself as a loyal and committed partner, but the manipulation had painted her as the antagonist in a narrative she barely recognized. The anguish of realizing that her actions had been twisted to fit someone else's agenda was compounded by the guilt she felt for the strain it had placed on her marriage. She found herself questioning not only her actions but her own judgment, wondering how she had been so easily deceived. Dave, too, faced a tumultuous emotional landscape. The trust he had placed in Jake, and by extension in Katie, had been brutally shattered. The sense of betrayal was not limited to Jake's actions, but extended to the disillusionment with the world around him. The realization that someone he considered a friend could engage in such deceit left him questioning the authenticity of his relationships and his own ability to discern truth from manipulation. The aftermath of the betrayal was marked by a period of intense reflection. Katie and Dave sought therapy to help them navigate their emotions and begin to heal. Their sessions were filled with discussions about trust, vulnerability, and the impact of deceit on their relationship. They explored how the betrayal had affected their self-esteem, their interactions with each other, and their outlook on life. As they reflected, Katie and Dave began to uncover dark truths behind the deceit and manipulation. The extent of Jake's scheme was more far-reaching than they had anticipated. His actions had been driven by a blend of jealousy, malice, and a desire for control. The manipulation wasn't just about creating a false narrative. It was about systematically undermining their relationship to serve his own interests. The realization that Jake had used his knowledge of their vulnerabilities against them was a particularly bitter pill to swallow. They discovered that Jake had not acted alone. His deceit had involved collusion with other individuals who had either knowingly or unknowingly supported his narrative. This revelation added another layer of complexity to the situation, as Katie and Dave came to terms with the fact that their betrayal had been compounded by the involvement of others who had contributed to their suffering. The dark truths they uncovered led to a painful realization of the extent of the betrayal. The manipulation had not only damaged their relationship, but it also left lasting scars on their emotional and psychological well-being. Katie and Dave found themselves grappling with a profound sense of loss, not just of their marriage, but of their sense of security and trust in the world around them. Despite the pain, Katie and Dave recognized that uncovering these truths was a crucial step in their healing process. It allowed them to understand the full scope of the betrayal and to address the underlying issues that had been exploited by Jake. The process of reflecting on the depth of the betrayal and uncovering the dark truths was both a source of deep sorrow and a path towards eventual recovery. As they worked through their emotions and sought to rebuild their lives, Katie and Dave were guided by the hope that understanding the full extent of the deceit would empower them to move forward with greater clarity and strength. The journey ahead was fraught with challenges, but the insights gained from their reflections and investigations provided a foundation upon which they could begin to heal and seek a new beginning. Facing the harsh realities of betrayal and deceit, Katie and Dave found themselves confronting a series of unsettling truths that had upended their lives. The layers of lies and manipulation orchestrated by Jake had not only damaged their relationship, but had also exposed them to a painful and disorienting reality. The process of unraveling these layers was both confronting and sobering as they grappled with the full extent of Jake's deceit. The harsh reality of the situation became clear as Katie and Dave delved deeper into the deception. They had initially thought that uncovering the manipulated videos would bring clarity, but as they continued their investigation, they discovered that the lies ran deeper than they had imagined. Each revelation peeled back another layer of Jake's intricate scheme, revealing a web of deceit that had been carefully woven to manipulate perceptions and control outcomes. The videos, initially seen as the primary evidence of Jake's deceit, turned out to be just one part of a larger puzzle. As Katie and Dave reviewed the footage, they identified discrepancies and inconsistencies that had been carefully engineered to mislead. The shocking discoveries included fabricated contexts. The videos had been edited not just to alter individual moments, but to create an entirely false narrative. Key interactions between Katie and Jake had been taken out of context and scenes were rearranged to distort the timeline of events. This manipulation was designed to create a misleading story that would align with Jake's agenda. Deceptive audio cues. Further analysis revealed that audio cues had been added or altered to reinforce the fabricated narrative. Background noises and voice distortions had been used to create the illusion of an inappropriate interaction, masking the true nature of the conversations between Katie and Jake. False evidence. The investigation uncovered that Jake had planted additional false evidence to support his narrative. This included fake messages and doctored photographs that had been used to corroborate the manipulated videos, creating a more convincing but entirely false portrayal of events. The revelation of these shocking discoveries underscored the extent of Jake's betrayal and manipulation. It became evident that the deception was not merely a series of isolated incidents, but a coordinated effort to undermine Katie and Dave's trust and destroy their relationship. The manipulation was not just about misleading them, but about crafting a narrative that would cause maximum damage and confusion. Katie and Dave's emotional response to these discoveries was one of profound shock and disbelief. The realization that their perceptions and judgments had been so thoroughly manipulated left them feeling vulnerable and disoriented. They struggled with the betrayal not only because of the direct impact on their relationship, but also because of the violation of their trust in Jake as a friend. The process of revealing these shocking discoveries involved a painstaking review of all the evidence and a thorough examination of Jake's actions. Katie and Dave worked with forensic experts, legal advisors, and trusted confidants to piece together the full scope of the deception. Each new piece of evidence added to their understanding of the manipulation but also deepened the emotional impact of the betrayal. As they faced the harsh realities of the situation, Katie and Dave began to confront the broader implications of Jake's deceit. They had to navigate the emotional fallout, including feelings of anger, betrayal, and self-doubt. The process of uncovering the truth was not just about exposing Jake's lies, but about coming to terms with the damage done to their relationship and their sense of security. In the end, The revelations forced Katie and Dave to reassess their relationship and their future. The extent of the betrayal and manipulation had created a significant rupture in their trust, and the journey towards healing would require both emotional and practical efforts. They sought therapy to help process their feelings and began to work on rebuilding their lives in the aftermath of the deceit. The shocking discoveries served as a catalyst for Katie and Dave to confront their harsh reality and begin the process of moving forward. While the pain of the betrayal was significant, the uncovering of the truth allowed them to address the underlying issues and start on a path towards healing and recovery. The journey ahead was challenging, but the insights gained from their investigation provided a foundation for rebuilding their trust and finding a way forward. Understanding the depth of deception and manipulation brought Katie and Dave face to face with the full scale of the betrayal that had disrupted their lives. As they unraveled the layers of Jake's deceit, it became clear that the manipulation had been both sophisticated and insidious, designed to exploit their vulnerabilities and dismantle their relationship from within. The realization of how deeply Jake had embedded himself into their lives, using their trust against them, was both eye-opening and devastating. The intricate web of lies revealed a calculated effort to distort reality, leveraging psychological tactics to undermine Katie and Dave's confidence in each other. Jake had not only manipulated the evidence, but had expertly played on their emotions and insecurities to drive a wedge between them. This profound understanding of deception highlighted just how vulnerable they had been to such an elaborate scheme. The depth of Jake's manipulation involved several key aspects. Psychological tactics. Jake's deceit was not just about altering evidence, but also about manipulating perceptions and emotions. By creating false narratives and exploiting existing insecurities, he aimed to erode the foundation of trust between Katie and Dave. The psychological impact of his actions was profound, leaving them questioning their own judgment and the reality of their experiences. Emotional exploitation. Jake had carefully observed Katie and Dave's relationship dynamics and used this knowledge to craft his deceit. By tapping into their fears and doubts, he was able to amplify the emotional impact of his manipulation. This emotional exploitation made the betrayal even more damaging, as it not only disrupted their relationship, but also left lasting scars on their self-esteem and trust in others. Systematic approach. The scheme was methodically planned and executed, involving multiple layers of deceit. From manipulating videos to fabricating evidence and influencing mutual contacts, Jake's approach was comprehensive and designed to ensure that his lies were both convincing and difficult to unravel. This systematic approach made it challenging for Katie and Dave to piece together the truth and led to a prolonged period of confusion and distress. Contemplating the consequences of such extensive betrayal and manipulation forced Katie and Dave to confront the broader implications of Jake's actions. The impact of the deceit extended far beyond their personal relationship, affecting their trust in others and their ability to navigate future relationships. The consequences they faced included erosion of trust. The betrayal had a profound effect on Katie and Dave's ability to trust others. The realization that someone they considered a friend had engaged in such deceitful behavior left them questioning the authenticity of their relationships. The erosion of trust was not limited to their relationship with Jake, but extended to their interactions with others, creating a lingering sense of suspicion and doubt. Impact on self-esteem. The manipulation and betrayal had a significant impact on Katie and Dave's self-esteem. The emotional exploitation and psychological tactics used by Jake left them feeling vulnerable and questioning their own judgment. Rebuilding self-esteem and confidence in the wake of such betrayal became a crucial part of their healing process. Relationship dynamics. The consequences of Jake's deceit had ripple effects on Katie and Dave's relationship with each other. The strain of dealing with betrayal and manipulation required them to navigate complex emotions and rebuild trust. The process of healing involved not only addressing the impact of the deceit, but also working through the underlying issues that had been exploited by Jake. Long-term effects. The long-term effects of the betrayal included a heightened awareness of the potential for deceit and manipulation in future relationships. Katie and Dave had to come to terms with the fact that their experiences had changed their perspective on trust and relationships, requiring them to be more cautious and discerning in their interactions with others. As Katie and Dave contemplated these consequences, they sought support from therapists and counselors to help them navigate the emotional and psychological fallout. They worked on rebuilding their relationship with a focus on open communication, trust, and transparency. The journey of understanding deception and contemplating its consequences was a challenging one, but it provided valuable insights into the complexities of trust and the importance of addressing underlying issues. Ultimately, Katie and Dave's experience with betrayal and manipulation served as a profound lesson in the nature of deceit and the importance of safeguarding trust in relationships. While the road to recovery was fraught with difficulties, their commitment to understanding the depth of the deception and addressing its consequences helped them begin the process of healing and rebuilding their lives. Navigating the deep emotions that emerged from the betrayal, deceit, and breakdown of trust was an arduous journey for Katie and Dave. Each step in their process of healing involved confronting complex feelings and coming to terms with the profound impact of Jake's manipulation. Navigating emotions. The emotional landscape following the betrayal was tumultuous and fraught with challenges. Katie and Dave were faced with a wide spectrum of emotions, including anger, sadness, confusion, and disbelief. The initial shock of discovering the extent of the deceit left them feeling overwhelmed and disoriented, as they grappled with the reality that their trust had been severely compromised. Anger and betrayal. Anger was a predominant emotion as Katie and Dave processed the deceit. They felt a deep sense of betrayal not only from Jake but also from themselves for not recognizing the manipulation sooner. This anger was directed at Jake for his deliberate deceit and at themselves for the perceived lapse in judgment. It was essential for them to channel this anger constructively, using it as a motivator to address the issues and seek resolution. Sadness and grief. The sadness that enveloped Katie and Dave was a reflection of the loss of the relationship they had once cherished. The grief extended beyond the immediate impact of the betrayal, encompassing the loss of trust and the emotional security they had previously enjoyed. Mourning this loss was an important part of their healing process, allowing them to acknowledge and process the depth of their emotional pain. Confusion and self-doubt. The deceit had left Katie and Dave questioning their perceptions and judgments. This confusion was compounded by the manipulation, which had created a distorted reality. Overcoming self-doubt and regaining confidence in their own judgment required time and introspection. They had to differentiate between the manipulated reality and their genuine feelings and experiences. Seeking understanding and closure. Navigating these emotions involved seeking a deeper understanding of the betrayal and its impact. Katie and Dave engaged in extensive reflection and therapy to make sense of their experiences. They needed to understand how the deceit had affected their trust and their relationship dynamics and to find a way to achieve closure. Rebuilding and moving forward. Rebuilding their lives after such a profound betrayal required both individual and collective efforts. Katie and Dave recognized that moving forward would involve finding strength in their experiences and developing resilience in the face of adversity. Healing and personal growth. Katie and Dave each embarked on a journey of personal growth and healing. They attended therapy sessions to work through their emotional pain and gain insights into their own responses and coping mechanisms. This process of self-discovery helped them build resilience and develop a stronger sense of self. Restoring trust. Restoring trust both in themselves and in their relationships was a critical part of the rebuilding process. Katie and Dave worked to rebuild their relationship with each other through open communication, transparency, and a renewed commitment to honesty. They set clear boundaries and expectations to foster a healthier dynamic and prevent future breaches of trust. Forgiveness and moving on. Forgiveness played a significant role in their journey towards moving forward. While forgiving Jake did not mean excusing his actions, it was about releasing the hold that anger and resentment had on their lives. This act of letting go allowed Katie and Dave to focus on their own healing and future growth, rather than remaining stuck in the past. Building a new future. As Katie and Dave navigated the process of rebuilding, they focused on creating a positive and hopeful future. They set new goals and aspirations for themselves, both individually and as a couple. Embracing new opportunities and experiences helped them to find joy and purpose beyond the shadow of the betrayal. Finding resilience and hope. The journey of moving forward was not without its challenges, but Katie and Dave discovered newfound resilience and hope. They learned to trust their instincts and recognize the strength that emerged from their adversity. Their experience with betrayal, while painful, ultimately forged a stronger bond between them and a deeper appreciation for the value of trust and authenticity. Through this process, Katie and Dave came to understand that rebuilding after betrayal was a multifaceted journey involving emotional navigation, personal growth, and the rebuilding of trust. Their experience taught them valuable lessons about the nature of relationships and the importance of resilience in the face of adversity. As they moved forward, they did so with a renewed sense of hope and a commitment to creating a future grounded in honesty, trust, and mutual respect. Closure and healing. Katie and Dave's journey towards closure and healing was a testament to their resilience and determination. As they navigated the aftermath of the betrayal, they found themselves on a path that led to a renewed sense of purpose and understanding. Finding closure involved coming to terms with the past, accepting the reality of what had happened, and allowing themselves to move forward without the heavy burden of unresolved emotions. The process of healing was deeply personal and required time, introspection, and support. Katie and Dave engaged in therapeutic practices and open dialogues to address their feelings and foster emotional recovery. They learned to forgive, not just Jake, but themselves as well, for the role they played in the unfolding of events. This forgiveness was not about excusing the betrayal, but about freeing themselves from the shackles of anger and hurt, allowing them to embrace a future unburdened by past grievances. As they found closure, Katie and Dave also focused on embracing new beginnings. They recognized that their experiences, while painful, had imparted valuable lessons about trust, resilience, and the importance of self-worth. Moving towards a new beginning involved setting new goals and aspirations that aligned with their newfound perspectives. They made a conscious effort to build a future based on the lessons learned, fostering relationships that were grounded in mutual respect and honesty. Embracing new beginnings. Embracing new beginnings marked a significant turning point for Katie and Dave. This phase of their journey was characterized by self-discovery and the rekindling of trust. They learned to trust again, not only in their relationships with others, but also in themselves. This newfound trust was nurtured through personal growth and the support they received from unexpected sources. One such source of support came from a community of friends and family who rallied around them. These relationships, forged in the fires of adversity, provided Katie and Dave with a renewed sense of connection and belonging. They found solace in the understanding and encouragement of those who had witnessed their struggles and growth. This support network played a crucial role in helping them embrace new beginnings with a sense of optimism and hope, finding peace and happiness. As Katie and Dave continued their journey, they began to find peace and happiness in the wake of their painful experiences. This peace was a result of their commitment to healing and the lessons they had learned along the way. They came to appreciate the value of moving forward with a positive outlook, recognizing that their experiences had shaped them into stronger and more resilient individuals. Their newfound happiness was reflected in the way they approached life and relationships. They embraced opportunities for growth and self-improvement, finding joy in the simple pleasures and in the fulfillment of their personal goals. This sense of peace and happiness was not about forgetting the past, but about integrating their experiences into a narrative of strength and renewal. Rediscovering joy. Rediscovering joy was a pivotal aspect of Katie and Dave's recovery. They learned to find joy in their everyday lives and in the relationships that mattered most. This joy was rooted in a deeper understanding of themselves and their values. By rebuilding their lives with a focus on what truly mattered, they found a renewed sense of self-worth and purpose. The process of rediscovery involved exploring new interests, rekindling old passions, and fostering meaningful connections. Katie and Dave embraced activities that brought them joy and fulfillment, allowing them to reconnect with their inner selves and with each other. This journey of rediscovery was marked by a sense of accomplishment and pride in their ability to overcome adversity. Embracing hope. Embracing hope was a natural extension of Katie and Dave's recovery process. They found comfort in the shared experiences and support of their friends and family, which provided a foundation for hope and optimism. This hope was not just about the future, but also about the potential for growth and positive change. Katie and Dave learned to embrace the idea that their experiences had prepared them for a brighter future. They found solace in the understanding that they were not alone in their journey, and that their resilience and determination would guide them through any challenges that lay ahead. Moving forward together. Moving forward together with a sense of peace and closure was a testament to Katie and Dave's commitment to each other and to their shared future. They approached this phase with a renewed sense of unity and optimism, ready to face the future with strength and resilience. Their journey towards rebuilding trust and finding fulfillment was marked by a deepened appreciation for each other and for the value of their relationship. They continued to support each other through life's ups and downs, using their experiences as a foundation for a more meaningful and harmonious partnership. Celebrating new beginnings. Celebrating new beginnings was an important milestone for Katie and Dave. This celebration was not just about marking the end of a difficult chapter, but also about acknowledging the growth and positive changes that had come from their experiences. They embraced the opportunity to start anew, with a focus on rediscovered trust and a renewed commitment to happiness and fulfillment. This celebration involved recognizing their achievements, both individually and as a couple. Katie and Dave took time to reflect on their journey, celebrate their progress, and set new goals for the future. Their celebration was a reflection of their resilience and their commitment to living a life grounded in trust and authenticity. Facing the future. Facing the future with courage and self-discovery was the final aspect of Katie and Dave's journey. They approached the future with a sense of readiness and optimism, prepared to embrace whatever challenges and opportunities lay ahead. Their experiences had equipped them with the tools and insights needed to navigate life with confidence and grace. They faced the future with a renewed sense of purpose and a commitment to fostering meaningful relationships. Their journey of self-discovery had provided them with a deeper understanding of their values and goals, guiding them towards a future filled with hope and happiness. Embracing possibilities. Embracing possibilities was a natural extension of Katie and Dave's recovery. With a sense of trust and hope, they looked forward to a future filled with opportunities for growth and fulfillment. They recognized that their experiences had opened up new avenues for personal and relational development. Katie and Dave approached the future with a sense of excitement and anticipation, ready to explore new possibilities and create a life that reflected their values and aspirations. They were supported by the relationships they had cultivated and the lessons they had learned, and they embraced the future with optimism and a renewed sense of possibility.